Hello and welcome to ZIM Explore. I am Dr. Abstract, and in this ZIM Explore we're going to take a look at the ZIM Quiz and how we can bring in an individual quiz into its own app. So the ZIM Quiz is an e-learning example, and so we'll go under examples here. It's right here, the e-learning quiz. Now it loads a lot of these images as well as backing sounds. The music here. Here's the music, and we can hit go. Move the words to the matching animal. And these types of things happen. As a matter of fact, maybe we don't want the backing sound. Just for now.
Move the words
right
to the matching animal.
So the idea is that we need to move that to there. Oh, we did it. It was just one move that time. How about that? That was nice and fast. Now, there's a rewind there, and again, you can attempt to do that. Let's see, giraffe, alligator, elephant. There, okay. Now, this go pops up, and that allows you to go to the next one. But if you were to use the scrambler, or this is called Scramble down here, there's the name. If you use the Scramble, we may not want to go to the next page. So that's one of the things we'd have to do is take this away.
Play the sound
that then
and press
goes
the
to
matching
the next,
animal.
The next page, and swiping would go
Find
to the next page,
the matching animals.
So there's a bunch in here, but the issue is maybe you only want this game, or maybe you only want that Scramble game. So I want to show you how to grab only one of the games to make a single app out of this. All right, so we have an example here. Oh, those were examples. Right, so all of that stuff is available as a download as well. Let's see where that's located. I'm going to reduce this down. That's remote. Here is our local. So I'm looking now at the code. There's the e-learning directory right here. And in there, there's an assets.zip that holds all of the assets. And is there another zip? Yeah, ZIM Quiz.zip. So it may also be available right on zimjs.com/zimquiz.zip. But ZIM, it's certainly in the e-learning folder right there. Now, I did not include in that zip, probably should, this individual one that I was just working on, which is called, where'd it go? Scramble.html. So what we have is the quiz.html. Let's just take a quick peek at what's in the quiz. So at the top of the quiz, right here, we are calling in CreateJS and ZIM and Pizzazz. So you'll have to have Pizzazz around. And then take a look. Each of the quizzes is its own JavaScript file. So I'm going to show you how to bring in, and there's an intro JavaScript file as well, which makes that collage at the front. I'm going to show you how to bring in the code from Scramble.js, and we're going to do that right in its own HTML file called scramble.html. So these at the moment are in quiz.html. Now what happens in here, if you take a look, is we load all of the assets. Now this is going to load all of the assets, and we're going to copy this and bring it on over. But if you're only using Scramble, you'll want to remove certain assets, and I'll talk about that when we get there. It's calling a new frame. This is basically the template, and we're loading in the assets in the path and a progress bar. Okay. Then down below, we have to call the make from each of those separate JavaScript files. So make Scramble is a function inside of the Scramble.js file. And that returns a Scramble page. And we pass in our stage to each one of those. So now we have a page that is Scramble. We have a page that is listen, but we haven't added these pages anywhere. We've just made them here, because we then add them into a pages class. Now you won't have to do this. If you only have one page, you don't need a pages class. But we still do have to call that make Scramble function. So I'll show you that in just a sec. But here are all those pages being added to pages so that we can manage all those pages. And then there's various events that happen as we go from one page to another, to start the sound for that page, to stop the sound for the previous page, to maybe reset a page or not. So there's a few different things that are happening here when we leave pages and when we get to pages. And those are all handled with various events and stuff. Okay, so there they are. That was to handle 8 or 9 different apps, just turning things off and on. That's what all that's doing. You won't have to worry too much about that when you use a single app, but there is one place that, or two places actually, that we need to slightly adjust. All right, so that's the lay of the land, and now we're going to go into the Scramble.js. So here's the Scramble.js. There's that make scramble function that we mentioned. And then way down at the bottom, it returns the page. So we'll end up using all of that Scramble.js page with hardly changing it at all. Just cut and paste it in. So let's go to the Scramble.html page that we make. First of all, we started with the ZIM template and then changed the title to Scramble. The ZIM template is bringing these two things in, but the ZIM template does not bring in pizzazz. So you'll need to bring in pizzazz 2 right here. That's your first step. Here's 0, which is telling us the basic instructions. There's 8 steps in total. So step 1 was to bring in pizzazz. Step 2, copy from ZIM Quiz. So you see where it says scaling options? All the way through the assets, all the way to the end of part 2. So that's the stage width and stage height. So basically all this stuff right here just got copied from the ZIM Quiz so that we can bring in our proper assets. Now we could have copied the whole top of ZIM Quiz, which is right here. So there's where we stop copying. Here's the assets. And then there was all this comment stuff. But to get to where the pizzazz was, there's all these things as well, and I would have had you remove these things, so it was kind of just easier to start a template. But basically, that's all the template as well, and then you want to remove those things, and you're roughly in the same place. Okay, so in the assets, well, why don't we take a look at the assets last? Let's go to part 3, close the template at the bottom. So the template already comes with a close. This is the bottom of the template. So if you copy the ZIM template, we're working on that. That's all at the bottom of the ZIM template already. So that's great. 4, copy the code from Scramble. So basically what we're doing is we went into Scramble right here. We copied it all. So, and then we pasted it right here. So this is all the code to Scramble, or any of the other features as well. And there's the end of 4 that came from Scramble. So all that stuff just is left how it is. Now to get it to show up on our page here, here's what you would need to do. You would have to call the make scramble function. Make scramble, pass it the stage. Now remember that this function out here, sitting out here, didn't know what the stage was when we were calling it from our other quiz.html page. So that's why we passed the stage into it. That's one way to do it. You could have made a global stage variable, but anyway, or you could pass the stage in. So it's expecting a stage. Therefore, we have a stage, and so there's us passing the stage in to make scramble, and add 2. We don't need to center it. It's the same size as our stage. So just add it to the stage, and we've called it a variable page, and that allows us to access it with the read question, because we've got to read the question on that page at some point. So this returns the page. Up in here, there's a function called read function that's stored on this page. So whatever, you could call it Scrambler or whatever you want there, as long as you would call it scrambler.read question there. Anyway, we just called it page. And that's it. That will show up. So if we remove these other things right here and just copied the code in and called the function and added it. We wouldn't even need to store it in a variable at that time. That's all we have to do to see it. Let's look. Open in browser. There it is. Now, there's a couple things that are missing. First of all, we're not reading the question. Second of all, if we want sound to play, the backing sound that is, we're going to have to play it because that was all handled in the very first page, playing the backing sound. So here's what we need to do to play the backing sound. We can't, well, if we wanted to, that's all we would need to do to play the backing sound is forest.play. We've reduced the volume of that too because it was a pretty loud track, and we've told it to loop. So that would be playing the backing sound. Unfortunately, modern browsers now and mobile don't allow you to just play a backing sound. You've got to interact with the app, or the person has to interact with the app before you can play the sound. So we can make a button, start button, or a pane. A pane is often a good way to do it because you can put a message in the pane. So what we've done is we've made a new pane that is this size with this message, and we made the background color yellow, and we show it right away. Then we added an event to the pane that when it closes, we call this function. And in this function, we're going to play the sound, and also that's where we're going to read the question. Let me comment out the reading of the question, and we'll get to playing the sound. So I have this in the browser, refresh here. So there's our pane. Now you can put a picture in that as well. You just make a picture and add it to the pane. You can change the pane to be the whole size. You can make it slightly transparent. There's a few different things. You can add a close button to it. You can drag the pane. But anyway, probably something like this is fine. And there we go. We're playing the sound. So it also plays if you click on the pane. So you can choose what you want to do with that. Click off, click on, doesn't really matter. Let's start. Sound plays. Now we don't have in here a muting of the sound. That also was handled on the front page. You could go take a look at how we handled the muting of the sound in the rest of the code there. I think it's either on the first in the quiz.html or it's in the intro.js. Probably in the intro.js. It's a little toggle button, so you can add a toggle button to your individual app if you so desire, or you could just have them turn off the sound like so. That would also turn off the reading of the question and a few other things. Okay, so speaking of the reading of the question, here is the function that we've set up inside of the page to read the question, because we don't want to load the page and have the question be read right away. As in, all those pages get loaded at once, all of their questions would be played at once. The pages aren't even showing, but their questions would be playing. So we had to only play the question when we actually show the page, not load the page, but show the page. So there's us calling that function that we had set up to read the question, page.readQuestion. Let's take a look. I don't see a question reading. Do you? Page.readQuestion, save, and if we refresh this thing, refresh. Still no question. Check for an error. 12. Page, we were goofing around with this, weren't we? Return page, what do we call it? Oh, right here. Var page is equal to make scramble. So this makes the page and returns it into there, and now we can read the question properly.
Move the words to the matching animal.
So the read question also brings in this little animation, and then brings in
move the words to the matching animal.
Nice, huh? And away you go. So the last thing was what happens when you get it right. So there's the elephant, there's the giraffe, there's the alligator, here's the hippo.
Woohoo!
Now there was a big go button here. Well, now there's only the probably want to move that. You can go in and find out where to move the refresh. Anyway, there's the refresh. Still working. So the last step, this was number 7, last step number 8, inside the code from Scramble.js. Here the bottom, let's see what we've got. So here's the function read question. And somewhere in here, we'll see a number 8. Page.go, here it is right here. So when the scrambler is complete, it usually shows that go button. So the go button is made down below, but we don't want to see the go button. So that locates the go button and adds it, animates it in. And this one is that page replay and animates in the page replay. So all we did was comment out the animating in and creation, or the animating in of the go button right there. All right, so that's up in the complete. And then there's the games have different ways of completing, but there's usually some way that it completes, at which point you'll see that this type of thing is made in each of the games, and you'll want to comment that out if you only have an individual game. All right, so the last part is how do we deal with these assets? Because if you put this up on a server, excuse me, it takes a while for these assets to load in. There's a fair number of them. So I would suggest we, as it was said here somewhere, I think, search on asset to find all of the assets used. So let's do that. Is that it? So there, those are all the assets. You know what the heck happened there. I know we had an asset.play, so what is the deal? Why is my search not finding things? Where was the asset? There was the search asset. Let's just go check that one. Asset. And what am I searching on? Asset. Why didn't it? Oh, that's crap. That's an empty asset. So search on asset without the empty bracket, obviously. I'll have to maybe adjust that. So there's where it says, so search on, there we go, asset without the closing bracket to find out what's going on. And here's the asset woohoo. So we're going to need the asset woohoo. Here's the asset scramble. So we're going to need that asset. Here's the asset drag.jpg, which is used as the little finger showing you how to drag it. There's the asset forest. That's our background asset. And we're back to the beginning again. Now, it also says in there, also check for dynamic assets. So here are the dynamic assets right here. And we're actually tiling those. So obviously there's got to be some assets for your images. The tile accepts an array of assets, and it makes it in behind. The tile will make asset this, asset that, asset that. So it looks like I'll have to maybe mention that too and adjust that. But anyway, those are the ones. So what you want to do is come up here and basically remove any ones that you're not using. All right, I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to do it for this example. And that is how you make a single app out of one of those quiz examples. Isn't that cool? So I think that's pretty good. And this has been a ZIM Explore. And I am Dr. Abstract. Hopefully that helps. Of course, you can code your own types of apps like these e-learning apps. These are just examples that we provided, not necessarily meant to go into production. But all the best, and if you're digging Zim, come into zimjs.com/Slack and join us there. Talk about things, see some examples, ask questions. I'd love to hear from you. Bye-bye.